Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Greetings all. So today I wanted to, well, just touch upon the birth we had yesterday, although apparently neither Radhakund or myself can discuss it because neither one of us were there. I think I'm getting better at this. But, well, Radhakund, you're the only one who has anything to say about this birth. Or whatever you saw. Of course, you're not really there. You're still riding your bike and taking your kids to school, aren't you? Yeah,
It's
okay,
the
I'll
other
wait.
birth. It's the birth after the Indian. It's the other birth, the one that you
Yeah,
guys.
last night. Yesterday, there was a baby born.
No, I'm
There she-
actually here.
Okay, there she is.
Radhakund's second birth officially. You are on fire, Radhakund. You are.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I would tell
Yay,
what
Indalika.
from my side. I told Indalika I invited her to come and tell the story.
Right.
I will admit the whole birth was really Indalika's birth because she single-handedly took control of that birth nicely and gave the care and everything the family needed. So she really didn't need help, really. It seemed like she's done this before and she's become a pro at it. So the only thing I went there and I tried to observe the situation and the environment to see if I'm even needed, because she had everything under control. And all I could do was help around, since the apartment was a small space and there was things everywhere. So all I could do was help tidy up or get whatever was needed. And write down, because Indalika was very busy. She was more hands-on and did not have the time to note down anything or write down anything. So I would say she needed an assistant for that, just to note things down. But she's also a very observant. She collects data and she stores them. So she's doing all this, but she's aware and she's keeping all the information in her head. Which I thought was super cool. So she would be the one to come and give accurate answers to questions and stuff. But yeah, I missed the birth. When I messaged her, KL told me to message her and take instructions from her. She was like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. It's cool. Her contractions was only 5 to 7 minutes right now, no rush." You know, she even had a dental appointment she was going to go to.
Oh, hello. Indalika or Neelachella?
No,
Neelachella.
Indalika.
Should have told me I would have taken your appointment for you.
So, I mean, she'd already been there this whole time. She was already there and helping the mom out when I contacted her, and she said she had the dental appointment at 5, so no rush. And then, the baby came at 5:50. So from 5, the time she messaged me to 5:30, she tells me, "Oh, we can come now." And the next message is, "Oh, can't really talk. It's getting intense." And then in less than 15 minutes, the baby was out. Her water broke and the baby came out. It was 0 time. So I was trying to coordinate ambulance to go get KL, and but before the ambulance would even get to KL, the baby already came. Even before I would get to my house, from my house to her house, and we only live like 3 minutes away, the baby was already here. It was crazy. It was super fast. But she had a water birth, and turned out she did not give birth in the water. She had, she was standing in the water and leaned over, and the baby started to come. So I want to, is that a dry birth or is that still a water birth? Oh, Ndulaika is here. Perfect. So yeah, that was where I observed she was coming out of the tub to go lay down and take care of the baby. And everything was just going really smooth from there. And the father was really taking care of things and just doing what needed to be done. This other mother, I almost thought she lived there because she gave care like her grandma. You know, she seemed to know where things were and how to help. You know, we had her boil water for us in the kitchen and all that. She was very helpful. And I heard her telling the mom that she was proud of her. And I thought, it was such a beautiful grandma. You know, she has a good relation. But turned out they were not related. She was just a friend. And I learned that she's staying with them for the care. And I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I was hanging around to see what I needed to do in this birth because it was pretty much done. I was just there to learn and observe everything. Her placenta came out about an hour later after she gave birth because they were trying to nurse the baby and the baby was having a little bit of a hard time latching on. Induleka and the mom and the dad helped the baby latch on and the baby was able to feed nicely. And he pooped a lot. I've never seen that much poop from a baby before. He pooped so much. It was so nice. And he pooped 3 times. 3 times. It was cool. Yeah. The baby had a little bit of fluid or mucus down her throat or her nose. And we had the father suck it out. So he tried to do that maybe 2-3 times and the baby was better. So each time the baby would cry, it would help. And the baby would get better. So before we left, the baby, we could hear from the baby's breathing. She still had a little bit of mucus. And we had the father, we told him he had to come suck it. I had the bulb. We tried the bulb, but it didn't quite work. And the lake wanted to go really gentle. I was gonna go a little bit more. You know, KL, you said, if you're gonna go in there, you better get in there. You better get it done the first time. I was gonna do that. But Induleka wanted to go very gentle. So she didn't get much out. And so we told the dad, you're gonna have to come suck the mucus out of your baby. You know what he asked? He said, do I have to? Is it really necessary? I said, yes. And so he said, okay. And he went there and he sucked it out and spat it out. I thought that was so neat. Like he normally he wouldn't want to do that kind of service, but if it's absolutely necessary, then I'll do it. You know, that was pretty cool. Super dad power he had there. Yeah. So yeah, she had a tear. And we were trying to figure out how to stitch it. So none of us could stitch it. And we tried calling Denishta and KL. KL already went to bed. She went to bed at 6. Who goes to bed at 6? And she called her at 7. She said, I'm actually late for bed. So she was So it was funny. But yeah, Denishta was not gonna budge. She was not gonna take some paracetamol and get over there. So we just told the mom, okay, look, you have a tear and we cannot stitch you today. If you really want to be stitched, you're just gonna have to wait in the morning for KL to come and stitch you up. At the meantime, you can keep your legs closed while you rest and your body will naturally just heal itself within 3 days. And she thought, yeah, she would rather do that. You know, we explained to her, you can move around and do stuff and use those toilets that you have to spread your legs open. And she was happy with that. She was happy with just resting with her legs closed and be with her baby and her daughter. Yeah, she didn't want stitches. So we had her take a shower, changed, and she just rested and read bedtime stories to her kids. Like, who does that? She just acted like nothing happened, you know? She was so happy with her birth. She was really, really pleased with her birth. She was very strong woman, actually, to be honest. She was, you know, she was enjoying the process. It was beautiful. She was just going with the flow, and she was not stressed at all. And the daughter was watching the whole thing. It was amazing. She was just watching everything, and she didn't get scared, or she was just happy that she finally had her baby sister that she's been waiting for so long, you know. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. I'll let Indaleka take over. She will give much more details, especially the part where we missed, or if I missed anything. So yeah.
That would be all of it for me.
Very cool. I don't know from which point. Sorry. From which point should I start? What you already taught? I joined pretty late. Sorry.
Start from the beginning.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
We can hear you.
Okay,
You can
great.
start from where, okay, you start from where you start on your chart.
So I had an appointment at 4:30, dental appointment. So I came her, I mean, like, she messaged me in the morning, but I was thinking, like, I don't know how long it will take. So, and I set her to rest, and I mean, because it may take long and breathe and this and that. But about 1 a.m., she said, like, it's now the contractions came to another stage. It's like real intense. And I thought, okay, and my husband is busy and like I can go. I said, okay. And I was like on the phone with her. And I came to see her at 3 finally. And I could see like she's doing well, like the contraction are not so strong, like every 5 to 7 minutes. And I was sitting with her waiting for my dental appointment because like not also far to go. And it was like in the same pace. I said to her, okay, then I'll go just for 15 minutes to the hospital. I came back like 4:45, and just at some point it became like really intense, and then I see that she's pushing, and like, okay, and then I wrote to Radikund, and I thought, okay, she will push, it also will take some time, that's all right. And I said that to fill up the pool, and she came, like, first she went to the toilet and she came to the pool, and I see that the head is coming out. It was like, you know, so so quick and so sudden. I said, okay, and like the pool was not filled enough. So she tried to sit in the water. It didn't work. She just remained leaning ahead. So, and at some point the sex started coming out. It's just popped out. I thought, okay, like the head is coming like smoothly. She's holding the head with the breath, like everything is nice. But after that, like, you know, it's like I check like so no tearing, like everything is stretching nicely. But then like next push, and not just the whole head is coming out and like she's waiting for a while, but like, you know, head, and exactly with the same push, the body is coming out within like the same time. And that's it. Yeah, so it was like really quick, and so this transition started very sudden and went like really fast, so unpredictably, I would say. And yeah, and after that Radikun came like, whoa, wow, babies. And those first started to call me. So that's the story. Also regarding the fluids, when the head came out, I could see that the water is coming from her mouth. Maybe she just already, I don't know, swallowed some. Because, yeah, and after that, she I could see that she's struggling to cry, but she did one cry, another cry with a struggle, but it came, and every time it was more and more clear. So like that, and after that, you heard already what was after that.
Finish the story, Indreleka.
Sorry?
Go with the placenta, finish the
Oh,
story.
placenta. Well, after that, we were waiting for placenta, like 1.5 hours. So she had contraction. I mean, like she fed baby. Yes, well-aged baby. She fed, and she had few contraction. Yeah, and just came out. Placenta was like, I would say, small, but we checked, it's full, so nothing is missing. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the family was really cool. Father, their grandma, who is not actually their grandma, but she was really helpful. She encouraged Tilachila a lot. Yeah. So
Oh, I wanted to ask, where was Garangi?
with that, on Harinam,
Oh, okay. So you actually had two hands.
sorry?
You had two hands.
Yes.
Okay, nice. Yeah, okay. It's not, I've never seen you with two hands, so it's nice to know that you do. Okay.
No, she was not with me. She wasn't with me. Like, Nelacho's daughter helped a lot. She helped like to scream, like, ah, mama, ah, I'm with you. But Gaurangi was out. Yeah.
All right, I do have a few questions and comments. One, so was she standing when the baby came?
Sorry? She was
What
on her
position?
fourth.
On the floor, on all fours?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, not exactly she was leaning ahead, but like on her fourth. Yeah.
okay. Did you ever, okay, so I want to talk or look at the breathing when the baby was born. And so of course, I think at one point I heard a little bit of gurgling, but a lot of screaming. Mostly I just heard clear screaming, but I can assume what you saw was, to begin with, at the very beginning would have been
Yes,
quite
like
gurgly.
like this.
Especially, oh, not upside down, but I can imagine that they, sometimes they get a whole mouthful and, they're upside down, so fluids run it up their nose.
Yeah.
And that sneezing, gurgling. So all of that you see. Did you ever notice any retractions or difficult
what?
other than the lungs, retractions where the lungs suck under, or did you, other
I
than
checked.
them sneezing or coughing, did you notice the grunt? Any
Yes.
grunt? Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
She had
Like,
grunt? Oh,
like, yeah, in the beginning that was there.
oh, interesting.
When she was born, I tried to suck out. I mean, like I thought maybe mucus is there, but there was no mucus. It was like fluid, just liquid. Was yeah.
Okay, interesting. And how long did that grunting happen for? Do you remember?
It was I was checking. She like after 1 minute she gave like a good cry. I mean, like pretty clear, still with a little bit this grunting, but like within 1 minute she could clear up more or less. Later it was like still a little bit. I mean, when Radikun came, she could hear that, but little by little, I could see also the fluid is coming out from her mouth. She was like she couldn't latch because like it also was coming out from her mouth. But finally, it's like cleared when we left. It was like she was breathing nicely, and yeah.
She felt so much better after she pooped. After she had a big explosion poop, she felt so much.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they do find all these things connected with asthma. So any kind of lung thing, they do often find constipation or something, some binding up or some blockage in the bowel area adds to further congestion on the lungs, everything just kind of adding more pressure.
Yeah, she had a lot. Remember, she had a lot of. She had a lot. Explosive.
3
Which
times
is
and
good.
every time really a lot.
Which is a good
Kamala.
sign. It's good to see her get rid of it. I'm also wanted to point out, so what you did see was early signs of respiratory distress. And look how easy that was, in spite of the word respiratory distress. You actually witnessed and took care of and addressed respiratory distress. That grunt implies that she is struggling to get oxygen. The baby is trying to inflate her lungs by that.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to. And in fact, let's make the point too, that none of the equipment had arrived by this time either,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So by the time the equipment shows up, I know I don't have to follow it.
Well, it also was not, I was thinking that equipment is not there, but I was like waiting, like, will she manage it by her own, or like something need to be done? And she did. So like,
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Honestly, the equipment is literally a lot of excess baggage that I carry with me. You've seen I carry a lot of baggage with me. Unpack it, make it a mess, use a pair of scissors and pack it all back up. But they're there for the just in case. So it's interesting, you're right. The equipment did not show up. Even though the child is displaying respiratory distress, it did not create panic or generate panic or an overreaction from you. You continue to react perfectly and gently and conscientiously. And in this way, by you managing it the way you did, the baby was able to recover and not continue to fall further into distress. Now, in a hospital, the system would be to cut that baby off of that placenta urgently, take the baby away from the mother, which only causes more distress. And then they will continue to do those hideous things that we've seen on videos that you shared, that horrible, ridiculous shit. That stuff will happen. So your handling of this is precise and saved a baby from that type of response. Understand that respiratory distress can be handled at home to a certain point, and when we can't handle it, we know it and we move. And when we make that transfer, it can be done calmly and humanely and while embracing a baby and the mother. So great job.
Yeah, she was really calm. She was very, very calm. Like she had her composure. It was impressive, very impressive. Yeah.
So Indaleka, what were you thinking when you saw this? All the retractions and or at least the grunting and the fluids. What were you thinking?
what I was thinking about, what you said, and yes, first, like I thought if it's mucus, so I sucked it out. I mean, like, what can I do right now? Yes, and then I saw how baby will do, like what's happened, coughing, not coughing, like, and I was thinking that like in case that Radakun is on the way, so if something is happened, so then we will do something. But I was just, like observing what's going on. Just like this.
Good, perfect. That's good. That's great. That's what I want to see. That's maturity. Out of curiosity, how long after that did the equipment actually arrive?
Just like after 1 minute. So I was like looking at the watch,
Okay.
like 5:50 baby was born. Like within 1 minute she coughed out, and after that I got a call from Radakun. She was already there on the stairs, like that.
But the stairs were dark. Okay, moving on.
But the grandma was ready to go to meet her. Like she came in like right after 1 minute, like 5:52.
Okay, great. That's great. How long did you stay after the birth?
We stayed from 7 till 10. We were there till 9:30. I don't remember being
Yeah, like
home by
9:30. Yes, we left.
Okay, so that's a good long time. That's
Mhm.
Yeah.
nice. All right, and okay,
I
so a
remember
couple
to
things.
stay behind because you said you got to stay 4 hours after baby's born for respiratory distress. So we hanged around for that just to see and also check the mother. We wanted to make sure her bleeding completely stopped before we left. I mean, she was still
Yeah.
trickling a little bit, but we didn't want to just leave with her bleeding.
She
Absolutely.
also took baths, she peed, like everything is there.
Right. Well, also with that issue with well, okay, so we call this sometimes wet lungs for a baby. So especially when you see wet lungs and you did have early signs of respiratory distress, you would want to hang around a little bit longer and pay attention and make sure that this baby is good. And besides the breathing and that obvious stuff, the way to assist this baby in establishing its breath is keeping them warm with the mother, skin to
Yeah,
skin
that's
as much as possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever makes sense, but keep her warm, keep her with the mother. And this assists in rectifying respiratory distress. So again, well done. Good job. Good job. I wanted to make a comment about missing the birth. And I've often said I've got the Guinness Book of World Records for missing births. And I figure it's because I do a great job of preparing the parents and talk enough to the babies beforehand that they don't want me anywhere near them when they come. So they usually escape out of the mother before I get there and can say stupid things to them. So, but actually what I do put it down to is that I've prepared the mothers and the family so well that they feel completely at ease and they just go through the contractions and they're ready to transition through the various phases, including transition itself, in peace and confidence that they just end up having their babies. And so the type of woman that you're describing Neelachela as is that type of woman. And we were saying this, and you notice when women first come to you, they've got a long list of questions to ask. And then toward the end, well, the funny thing is toward the end, Neelachela couldn't even remember English. She was getting, she's getting that mother brain and she's getting ready to give birth. They do say your brain cells, a woman's brain actually shrinks during pregnancy.
Is it called the pregnancy brain?
Pregnant brain, yeah, pregnancy brain. And toward the end, you're just not really ready to focus on the unnecessary. You need now to focus on the necessary.
Yeah.
When would we know if the wet lung is not recovering? Subtle signs other than it not improving. The retractions under the ribs. All right, can you get in? Oh, you're in. The retractions under the ribs, that indicates a blockage that they're trying to take a breath, but because they can't, you will see the lungs flare out and the skin suck under the ribs. Yeah. You continue to hear the gurgling, you continue to hear the grunt. So that like anything, there's stages to this. So you saw the early stage of respiratory distress. The final stage is what I just said, including they start to turn blue due to oxygen deprivation. So one of the things you're trying to pay attention to and avoid is the lungs filling up with fluid, pneumonia, color. Well, you want to see the color improve. You don't want to see them become hypoxic because this starts burning off your brain cells first that don't come back. So low oxygen at birth leads to simple words because I don't care about being politically incorrect, but mental retardation. But in this case, we can see that the baby continued to improve. She got a good hard cry on and then I could hear it. There's some messages somewhere and you can hear this crying baby. There's a couple of cries where there's a gurgle in it. and then some hearty ones, and then maybe another gurgle. This will give me confidence that the baby will improve. But again, I would stick around for, if I wasn't old and lazy now, I would stick around for the 4 hours, which is the right thing to do, stick around.
Time goes by there anyways. Once a baby is born, 4 hours goes by really fast.
Very much so, very much so. And you're very busy too. In those hours, I like to give the opportunity, I mentioned this, it's Abithas, right? That I like to step out and leave the family, just the family alone for a while, for them to, connect. And we can still be outside, or in other cases, packing up, or cleaning up, just getting out of their way. And being alone can be 5 minutes, can be 10 minutes. Sometimes they call you straight away back in for something. But
well,
at
we
least
wanted that,
yeah.
but we had to keep an eye on that baby. So, we gave them their space, but at the same time, we kind of like stuck around.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. I wanted to comment about the bulb syringe, and you were mentioning. So of course it didn't show up till late. It was late when it showed up. So really I can understand why you wouldn't have gotten around to using it. I wouldn't have gotten around to cleaning it up properly. Maybe I would have sprayed some alcohol onto it and then used it. Just thirsty, actually. Thanks. So with the bulb syringe, it's a very flexible device, as I've shown. Normally it gets boiled before while she's in labor, and then it's sitting aside and it's ready to use. It is quite such a soft, flexible, easy thing to use. It's fairly uninvasive. Suctioning with the mouth is fine. Whatever works, I really don't care. The idea is to clear the lungs with whatever you've got on hand. And so yet again, you managed to address this issue as well, which again, everybody please learn to be flexible with these things so that you can address issues, if that makes sense. Because in a home birth, things never go according to plan, ever. You reach for something and there's always something you reach for that isn't there or was there a minute ago. I don't know where it is. I know I had it. I'm going to put it on my bag. I know I had it.
Oh my God, that was trying to find stuff. Oh God.
Even though we've all been there. We've all been there.
Oh my God.
Yep. So I appreciate it. So again, we have to learn to be flexible. There's a saying we have in the West, MacGyver it. You know this? MacGyver. What's his name? Jack MacGyver?
No.
He's a guy that fixes he just puts things together. So it's called MacGyvering it. So like you can make an airplane out of 2 bottle sticks and some bubble wrap, and we can get something flying just like this. So sometimes we MacGyver things, use what we can to make it work, like a bamboo shoot.
I appreciate Induleka brought her own personal things.
Yeah, exactly right.
Herself, which was impressive.
Well, she's been attending births for a while too, so, and taking alone. It's called Jugad. Okay, you got it. We're gonna Jugad it?
Jugad.
Jugad
is like
Jugad.
Hindi, Jugad.
Jugad.
you just use whatever it is and make things work.
Jugad. Yeah. All right. So that's what we're going to call our new group. Jugad.
This is Jugad.
So, what was I saying? Sorry, what was I saying? Where was I? MacGyvering, the two, but I was moving off of that.
You got to use whatever you have on hand to make do with what
So
you
with that bulb syringe, there is I'll say it now, there is a technique to use it, and it's important to use it right, or you cause more harm than good.
Yeah.
Deflate it first. Don't, before you put it in a baby's nose or up his mouth, deflate it completely. When you get in the nostrils, you want to get it in far enough that it blocks off the airflow. You let go of, then you let go of the bulb syringe and gradually pull it out. And that in that way it's opening up, creating the suction and dragging it out. Same
Yeah.
from the other side. So it's the most important thing is to deflate first, then let it go, pull it out. You either get rid of it or shake it back down. But like
That's what
this.
we try to do. That's exactly what we tried to do. Except Nduleka didn't want me to deflate it all the way down. She thought that was too much of a suction if we let it go in the baby's nose.
No, you get it down as far as you can go. That's the thing about this thing. It's not stiff or hard enough to do damage. That's why I use it. When you start using intubation, now this is a stiffer, stronger piece of plastic. My rubber is soft and supple and will bend before it will cut.
Yeah.
And again, if I'm worried about the lungs, if I'm worried about the baby inhaling fluids or mucus or meconium, I'm going to take it down as far as I can get it. Because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Otherwise, I don't do it. And of course, there's other things to do, such as holding them in certain positions to drain them, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But when
Nduleka
that's
did-
been done,
yeah, she tried that position
Sure.
where you have the baby
yep.
in
And
position
sometimes
upside down.
it,
Out.
yeah. And that's what we do. We start and we progress further. If that didn't work, we go to the next, then the next, then the next. We don't start with the big guns. I start with knives. No, that sounded bad. BB guns. I'll start with BB guns. Okay, I wanted to make a point about the charting. All right. So there's two sides to the charting. Definitely at the moment, I'm being very pressurized over paperwork. This is what's important to save lives in India. You need paper. So that's one aspect, but actually I've always kept records. In fact, this is the first time I'm keeping records for somebody else. I've always kept records for me. I keep records during the labor. And so there was some question as to what I mean by those questions. So 1 second, I'm just going to grab that form just a sec. Okay, so it starts off. It's got the mother's name and date and time. So there is a question. I have a question. What does it mean, initial labor check? And so I think Nduleka was kind of wondering, how do I answer this? So, yeah, sometimes it's not sure when your initial labor, where you want to start with your initial labor check. For some women, we can be starting at 5 days before they actually go into labor, right? But in any case, the history of labor is, so in this case, the history of labor is, I don't know. Neela Chawla called Nduleka at a certain time to explain, oh no, she contacted us both to explain something the night before. So we would say that, I would write that down. Contact called me at such and such a time and date. When you start this, you never know when it's going to end. So when you first enter it, it's the time and the date. And then when you finally get around to doing the first check, then you write down the history. Mother called or messaged us at about 1:30, at about midnight or 1 o'clock, that she'd been starting to have contractions, couldn't sleep through them, blah, blah, blah. So we hear that. So I would have started with that. Maybe the next time called again or whatever. And then you would write down, okay, I arrived at this time and this is what I found. So again, further on this chart, there's another place for blood type, which can be very important if they're Rh negative, and you need to remember and various allergies. So then there's another space here that mentions contractions, frequency, length, and intensity. Often often this section is left blank to me. I'm finding that this information is a little bit not useful. Frequency and length it's okay to write it down, but it can also give you the wrong information, or make you think something wrong. And intensity, I never get that right. So I don't really know, for instance, Sarita was saying in those early days that was intense. It wasn't. Whether the membranes are ruptured, that makes sense. And then there's the examination point, where both types of examination, blood pressure, pulse, the baby's position, fetal heart rate. They're talking about the height of the uterus, whether you fill it in or not, I don't know. It's just giving you more of a information as to whether or not the baby is descending. Fetal movement, obvious. Now I may never get around to doing it. The next thing is an internal exam. I may never get around to doing an internal exam. Certainly I might only get around to doing it later in the labor. So if I did it, I'd write it down. If I didn't, I don't. I will write it in the second page. It's good to pay attention to whether or not the mother's had bowel movements and whether she's gone past urine. Urine's a good thing to keep an eye on. You would like to record what her last hemoglobin was, so you can easily look at it instead of going through the charts like we usually do, trying to find that information. There's another little section here where I would repeat whatever was necessary from her previous birth. Oh, so this woman, I know this is how little we think about it. This woman is a VBAC, because it doesn't mean anything to me. So she was a VBAC. So I would write that down there. She was a VBAC. Why? No reason. Oh no, I think the reason were there were two. Oh no, that was somebody else. There were two good doctors on call that day. And then I might write any other relevant history with her pregnancy or something that I need to be aware of with her health. And then I keep track of everything else that goes on. So then I have a normal tick-off chart that may or may not use all of this paper. In it, I will check. I note the time. I note how many hours of labor she's already in labor. It makes it easier at the end. Again, it's the usual things: fetal heart rate, centimeters and a dilation, blood pressure, whether she voiding, whether she's passing urine or stool, and whether she's been eating or drinking. So all this information is important to me. Well, maybe not all of it, but I like to keep a record so that when something does become relevant, I can look back on it. So for instance, when we had that huge PPH, I could look back in the records, and I'll often go back to my charts and look at it and read it and scratch my head. Well, maybe it's no, because she drank. No, okay, it couldn't be that because she did that. Well, then maybe she needs this. So to me, I keep records. I just keep charts, and I'm that kind of person anyway. Look at anybody who looks at my house, I keep records and files on anything. But I do find it useful. I like to know when women are acting like they're going through transition. I like to know this. I don't know why. I like to. I certainly want to know when they first start pushing. I want to know the time when the water's ruptured. I often forget because I'm just focused on the birth, but these are the things. Yeah, exactly. Because you forget these details, I promise you. I read the stories I've written. I don't remember most of them. And certainly is okay. So the other side of these documentation is not just for how you care and how you chart and how you plan the care for this mother. It's very important to document the care of the mother when you hand your mothers over. So this means when you transfer care. So the effective way of behaving is maintaining all these careful charts of all careful information. And when you hand over care, you hand over the charts and you sit down with discussions with the person who's taking over care from you. So as an example, when we transfer to the hospital, they want to see all this stuff. They don't do it themselves, but I do. And they'll ask for it even though they don't do it themselves. On one hand, it is the right thing to do to have good paperwork, good records. And if a woman is requiring advanced care, that you have your records in order, that you hand over to the new care providers. And in this way, the woman has the best chance of better care. To hand a woman over without a history is throwing the woman into a shark pit. I have found that they immediately disregard whatever I've written. This is for sure. In an ideal world in India, it's also, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And this is, of course, what we're tackling at the moment. So this is what's happened from my transfers here in India this year. So this, this past year, all of a sudden they are now demanding paperwork, whereas even though when I was handing it to them, they were laughing at me and throwing it back at me. Now they are demanding paperwork. Now and they had, I don't know why, but I was discussing whatever it was, the 3 births ago, the one that also got transferred, the last transfer to hospital. So I was talking about this birth. Oh, I was talking about this birth. So as anybody recalls, the issue came up about transferring the mother to take the mother to hospital. So they questioned me. This hospital here questioned me. Well, whose decision was it to go to the hospital? And I was kind of a little taken aback. And I was saying, wait, what? What do you mean? And I was starting to explain, well, we decided together. And he kindly shook his head. No. Who decided to transfer the hospital? Because we have to do it. We have to do it if the mother makes a decision to transfer, then we have to do it this way. If you make the decision to take the woman in, then we need to do it that way. Which to me makes no sense whatsoever. This is all about bureaucracy, has nothing to do with birth. And I refuse to get myself entangled or strangled in a stranglehold with documentation. And please, anyone who can figure out why one is different from the other, let me know. Why is the transfer and the documentation different if the mother makes the decision or I make the decision? And I immediately explained, I never decide without the mother. It's our decision. But they made it clear.
Who to bite, that's all it is. They're just looking for who to point the finger at. Yeah.
Actually, you're right. That's exactly what it was about. And I'm trying to explain, no, it's our decision. I never tell a woman what to do. I put what's in front of them, what you want to do. So I put it in front of her and she said, let's do it now instead of in 2 hours. So whose decision is that? And then why does it? Yeah. So now we're going to blame you. And that was, okay. I think you're right, Radhakund. It was about who to point a finger at. And
Because you know, it's your responsibility to let the mother know at an earlier time if she needs transfer. And then you ask the mother, and the mother can choose to either transfer or keep trying. So it's still a collective decision making.
which is exactly what the choice was, and she chose to go, not to wait around any longer, but to go. You know, I said I would consider transferring her in about 2 hours if we don't see any more progress. And she just thought about it and went through a couple more contractions and said, why don't we go now? And I said, yeah, we can if you want. So we went. So, but for these bureaucrats, they don't I don't know. See, I don't think like them and they don't think like me. So it's been a hard marriage. And certainly I'm coming to see it as that it's a marriage. So I'm preparing my divorce papers, and I'm looking for alimony in a birth center at the end of the divorce. I just need witnesses. I need witnesses to say that he was cheating on me. He was, wasn't he? That guy was cheating on me. He's been romancing the hospitals and the doctors. So I have a fair complaint for a divorce, and I want the birth center and alimony.
I have a question.
Sure.
Isn't it always advisable to go as a pair, a group of two, for births, just in case, as a
Okay.
witness? Well,
Oh,
I mean, some mothers, some midwives work alone, but shouldn't we all go in a group of 2 or 3 so that, you know, just to rule out any accidents, or at least they have witnesses to situations.
well, first off, I think it's good to have I only worked alone simply because of the circumstances it was back in Australia. Actually, often I had students like yourselves who were working with me, so they came with me. If I worked alone, it's because it was due to circumstances, or the parents didn't want my students to come with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. We also need to keep in mind the choices of the mother. Of course, it's wholly solely her choice. But instead of, yeah, so if you're talking about the choice of the mother, yes. Now, one thing here, and when I had to do the last time I was here in Mayapur too, again, I was retired and came out of retirement and started teaching. So I was asking my parents then, as I ask my mothers now, I explain what I'm doing, and would they give me permission to bring a student in, or students, so that they can learn. And in particular with Neelichala, she was open to that. A lot of people came and palpated her and checked on her. So I personally am making that one of my conditions, that I bring an assistant, and now my conditions are, I might not even show up, but I'll be backing them up. I'm there behind and helping. But it's very imperative for me to hand it over, and of course that the women get their options, you know, they have options. But the second pair of hands just for yourself is huge. It's huge. Get me this, get me that, hand me this, hand me that.
Note that down, note this down.
Yeah, I do that, right? Time. I'll often call out, write that down. My hands are, you know, I'm always moochy and dirty in some way. So, you know, write that down, make a note, or even just call the time out in thin air, and I'll put it in my brain. So hopefully I'll remember and write it down. You know, because we do discuss things. How long was second stage? How long was third stage? How long was it between this, that, and the other? Then that's why you want these times, mostly to prove how bogus are the restrictions that are out there. You have to have your placenta in 10 minutes or we're going in. You know damn well an hour and a half later means nothing. 3 hours means nothing. 24 hours, 47 hours later, it still comes out, meant nothing. So this documentation helps our cause. So for your sake, yeah. Also what people are saying now, which funny, when I was doing it myself, I don't remember as many people saying what you all are saying, how exhausted you are after a birth. So funny. I mean, it's true. You're exhausted.
I don't find myself exhausted. I thought I would be, but I've been doing great.
Okay, so we know who we're calling more often. But like Induleka was saying that, Danish is saying that, somebody else was saying this, Rada gets tired. And I sure get tired, and it truly has affected the style of care that I'm giving now. It truly has affected it. I mean, I was jumping for joy when the baby was born and I didn't have to go. It's just like, take this, I'm going back to bed.
I learned from Denishta that if you go to bed at 8 o'clock and the heads up earlier when the mother announces that she's starting contraction, gives you plenty of time to prepare. So you can take a nap, you can go to bed early, and then you can be able to wake up at night and continue sleeping the next day.
This is true. This is important. And this becomes part of the life of a midwife. They're always thinking ahead. They make sure you have to take care of your body. For some of us are stronger than others. Some of us are weaker than others in different areas, in different ways, or just in numbers of kids at home, and the types of kids at home. There's different types of kids for everybody. So, yeah, so you need to look after yourself and plan ahead.
I want to add to that. Yesterday I was thinking that like externally you don't do anything much. Like, yeah, you just, like you breathe with the mother, you just like catch baby, observe, but it requires so much attention. Like you have to be so much focused that just later, like right after birth, I feel like, oh my God, like this, I don't know, like I gave birth really. So, and like when I came, really, I feel so exhausted. So maybe it's not some physical work which you're doing, but it's like mentally you are so tensed. So it's like really gives effect.
Heavy effect fully. It's exactly right. That's why I say, well, people say, oh, you're so calm, you're so calm. I am highly switched on. My mind's running a million miles an hour. I'm looking at everything in the room and analyzing, do I need to pay attention? Do I need this, or can I get rid of this information? And you're always you're just always on alert. You're ready to, even if you're sitting there going, oh, this is so cute, and having tears running down your eyes of how beautiful it is, your mind and heart are still ready to jump into action, because some tiger will jump in the room soon, and that really does wear you down. So again, this is why it's imperative. If we have a birth center here, if we have any system, if anybody has a birth center in your area, it's important to work. I think it's really valuable to work together as a team. It's hard to work alone. And this is as busy as I would get on my own, right? This kind of maybe a few more births. I would usually have between 4 and 6 births every month. So this is a lot of work on your own. But we can, as a group, I have no doubt this is what we will soon see, and no one person wants to do this. We need to build teams, and so that we can swap each other out when your baby is crying, or when you need to go home and vomit. I actually had to leave her birth and go to the toilet once, but I got back in time for the transfer. Anyway, All right, the other thing I wanted to mention was the tear. Oh, yeah, sorry, Rhoda, go. Rhoda couldn't.
I was gonna ask about the placenta. I have three questions. Is it
Go.
okay if I? So the first one is, could the pee you said to observe, could it be also mistaken as her water breaking? Or is that very clearly a pee? I mean, of course, the smell will probably tell you it's a pee, but what if she's having a water birth?
Oh, okay, so you're asking about if the water's breaking the water.
No, I'm talking about you saying we have to note down when the mother pees or
Oh.
when she poops. We need to note that.
That was regarding urinary retention, bladder
Oh.
retention. So during labor, I always pay attention to this. You know, you're always trying to encourage a woman to drink and eat, and we're always giving her something at some point, right? And often you don't see them, they don't really have necessarily an urge to pee because the baby's head is pressing on the nerve there. There's a ureteral nerve that lets our minds know, oh, my bladder's full. But as the baby descends, he pinches this nerve. So the woman doesn't necessarily get an urge to pee, even though her bladder is filling up. So this is why one of our jobs as a midwife is we encourage the mother to get up and urinate and empty her bladder so we don't have a situation like we had. So that's why we do it, is to encourage her to empty her bladder. Okay, but you do, in terms of determining the difference between ruptured membranes and a woman just urinating, yes, this can become confusing. I have often been called for broken waters, which were not. And I was picking up those strips of paper. Remember these strips of paper? So these are pH papers. Sitting here. It's probably in the birth kit, which I don't have back yet. But it's just a strip of paper. It's a pH paper. It's something you could use it with your swimming pools. And okay, so the difference is if it's urine, it will be acidic. If it's amniotic fluid, the paper will turn blue for alkaline. Otherwise, it'll be yellow for acidic. And that's the way you can, if you're not sure, that's the way you tell. Sometimes you can be sure if you look at it, which is why I like to look at the pads. Oh. Hang on, just let me answer this and I'll say goodbye, but hang on. To her, not to you. I'll come right back. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Hi, are you okay? Okay. Yeah. Agnes. Yeah. I know what you mean. Hey, listen, I'm in the middle of class right now. Can I call you back on this? I know what you mean, and I can guess. Send me the email. I'd love to see it. But I'll call you in a bit. Okay, I'll call you in a bit. Bye. All right, do you see me? Am I back? Yeah, okay. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, those are the pH strips. So all the way to the dark color is alkaline, and all the way on the orange is acid, meaning it's not membrane, amniotic fluid. So the other way you can tell, which is why I ask the women, I always want to see the pads, right? So you know me, I'm a disgusting person. I like to see the pads of anything, any leakage. So why do I want to see this pad? If I'm unsure, I can put one of those strips on it and test it. I also want to see that it looks clear. If it's ruptured membranes, there tends to be mucus and some stringy, slimy stuff. there's often some pink, it can be pink, or you can have little blood spots. So recently, in fact, that's what Savita had and described. So we assumed it was ruptured membranes, but we can't be 100% sure. We just assumed because I never saw it and tested. And certainly later on, we did get another big gush when she was in second stage, but that also happens when membranes have ruptured as well. Both ways can happen. The other way, I think you asked about the pool, but it's a good question. How can you tell that the membranes have ruptured if they're in the water? You just can. You just can tell. In fact, in time, you will learn by looking at a woman or listening to her that something just happened. You know, they'll be doing something and there'll be a yelp, something like that, followed by a splash, something like this. So in time, you will start to read the mother's body language. So in water, you will hear their breathing. You will hear something sudden will have happened. And if she's in water and you look down, you'll see the water shoot out from her legs. You'll see it. And it's always got floaty bits. It's always got stuff in it, right? And of course, if you get meconium, then you know damn well that's amniotic fluid. Meconium is different from our stool. It's very different. So if you see, oh, please, if you hear this, I mean, if you see this kind of greeny, darky fluid, then you can, again, also assume it's amniotic fluid. What was the last? Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say. Anything else about the fluid?
So you said,
yep,
if you test it with a test strip, if it's pee, it would be acidic or alkaline?
It'll be acidic.
Acidic, okay. And if it was a rupture membrane, it would be alkaline.
Correct. Correct. Opposite ends of the pH scale.
Okay.
Wait,
Okay,
the urine is alkaline, no?
No,
Urine
urine
is
is
no?
acidic. It's acidic. You will never get alkaline urine unless it isn't urine
But
or
it
something's
contains
really wrong.
ammonium.
You can get normal human pH is slightly acidic. Slightly acidic. We're far often too far acidic. And we have to bring in alkaline foods to bring it back to normal. But you will never get a urine that is completely alkaline. When you do one of those test strips, it will never be alkaline.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless it's amniotic fluid. If you do a urine test, and that's another way to check it, get her to give you a urine specimen, dip that stick. And if on the pH it goes blue, you know it's the amniotic fluid. Yeah.
Okay.
It goes all the way to the end. Okay. All right. So the other thing I wanted to cover was the tear. So one thing I still haven't seen it. I haven't seen a picture of it either. So from what I hear, the tear is long and is close to the anus. Is that correct? Okay. So there's a difference between the length of a tear and the depth of a tear. I'm not so concerned about how far a tear is. I'm concerned about how deep the tear is. So, and a couple of points to make to when you get down to the anus, it's very difficult to numb that area. You practically can't. So you usually start at if you're suturing, you're going to start at the fourchette. That's the opening of the vagina That's where the vagina joins the perineum. That's the foreshay. And these are what we call landmarks. And of course, we'll have diagrams and I'll show you other things. But the point being, I want to put, you pull that foreshay together and then you sew up. You want to, but when you sew here, it's painful. It's painful. So number one, the closer you get to the anus, just as some sidebar notes, never use a big needle. Use your smaller needles. Take smaller bites and shallower bites. You do not want to perforate the rectum. And they jump around a lot more because it's hard to sterilize that point. So a lot of times, even though I see and have recently seen these tears right down to the external anus, I don't necessarily stitch them. Again, I haven't seen this one, but I'll look. How you guys responded is exactly how you respond to a tear not being sutured. Keeping the legs together, the nori was there. Raw honey is also a real good healer. In the old days, we used the raw honey, not the seaweed. Seaweed's a new addition, but you know, it's all there, right? So whatever you've got, you use it. So at the moment, this is what she's using. In Jamaica, you asked me about the witch hazel. Yes. And in fact, this is exactly what I would do. I could do a demonstration on what I'm doing, which is just filling up these pads and I'll shove them in a freezer. And this is exactly what she would pull out and put on top of her maternity pad to heal, just bring down the swelling, and just the cold pads make the mothers love those cold little pats on their tears. So I know it's the opposite of hot, but yeah. So again, from what I hear, the chance, okay, so you mentioned some tearing. Did you notice how far inside her it went? At I don't care if they're this deep.
It's like, yeah, like that. Like that.
Okay. Okay, so I'm not so worried about that. If it was deeper, you would not. Okay, so you mentioned some bleeding. So the first case of bleeding is if you tear the artery, which is quite. So if you tear that, you will see it coming out of the tear. It won't be coming out of the vagina. It will be pumping. You'll see it coming out of the tear. So it sounds like to me, what you're seeing is just and you mentioned that the uterus was still a little soft. So I would say that just a little contraction and that little bleed would stop, but the bleeding was not from the tear. So, and the way you managed it and everything, of course, yes, that was a fast second stage. And this is where a lot of our tears come from. But again, when they come naturally like this, the body will want to tear over the muscle, not tear through. It doesn't want to tear its muscle. So what you described to me is a tearing over the top of the muscle. The muscle is intact. The arteries are not torn. Otherwise, she'd be gone by now. It's rare to have a torn artery. I haven't seen one yet. It's kind of rough handling for a tearing that deep. Yeah, so how you handled that and how you advised her is perfect. It doesn't sound like I would have stitched her even if I went. Again, I do avoid doing these things now. I think I always did avoid stitching anyway. I will do if I feel like it's really necessary, I will do it. But if there's a chance it's not necessary, my tendency now is to not do it. Again, I'm lazy now. So the choice is always up to the mothers. Having said that, no mother wants a needle in her. So they often opt for the easy solution rather than the better solution. Just throwing that in there. Being one of the people who goes easy way out, suffer for the rest of her life. Yep, we have a team here. You know what my kids called us yesterday? You know, my last name is Good, G-O-O-D-E. So I've been called a lot of things. And today they called us damaged goods. We're the damaged goods. I read about acupuncture and art. Great. Me neither. And I have actually, again, my first thing to go for is shepherd's purse, which somehow or other works. Also, I want to know, when is knowing whether it is a pee or amniotic fluid helpful? If you're trying to determine how far along, if she's had prolonged ruptured membranes, right? We think they're ruptured, but they're not. It's also good. Yeah. So again, this is information for you to make a judgment call. It's not uncommon for women to start their labors. Well, it only happens in 10% of labors. A lot of people think you start your labor with ruptured waters, but it only happens in 10%. In many of these ruptured water situations, it can happen days before the baby actually delivers. So partly, I want to keep track of this information. On one hand, we know that with prolonged ruptured membranes, there are some things you pay attention to and watch out for. On the other hand, there has been a lot of fear and misunderstanding and overreaction to prolonged ruptured membranes. Therefore, I also find it excellent to keep track. You know, I'm boasting so much, bragging so much about my wonderful statistics. Now, what if I don't have any paperwork to prove it? Guess what? I got paperwork to prove it. Maybe I don't have 1,400 files, but I have about 1,000 files. You know, I do give away a lot of files, and I let go of, I just didn't retrieve a bunch of files. But I must have about 1,000 files, which can show all the bullshit lies that are being promoted now are untrue. I've got them documented. Yep. You know, you go back in history. What do historians look for? Documents, evidence. I don't care about a law court. I want to understand truth and history, what works and what doesn't. And by documenting, you know, where would we be if Vasudev didn't write something down? If he didn't document something? Exactly. And this was part of my teaching, my learning situation, where we had to sit in class and take notes while people were lecturing us, and this is high school, or when people are or when we're seeing a video, or we're studying research papers, we have to document what we're doing. And our notes were part of the assignment. We have to turn in our documentation. What were our notes? How did we document it? So these are all important things in the process of learning and teaching. And God knows it's important to remember. Otherwise, I can't remember anything. I don't know about you guys. Okay, anything, Radha? Anything else about the placenta? Yep.
So 2 questions about placenta. The mom could not suck the baby's nose and mouth because the cord was too short. So she couldn't reach the baby's nose and mouth. Is that a normal thing? And the second question is, could you explain more about the calcium deficit? What causes it, what it is, and if it's good or bad? Can you just Yeah, explain.
significance. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So the first thing was some other, okay, the shortish cord. And actually it made me think of something else too. So number one, yeah, cords can be of any length. There's an average length of 20 to 24 inches, but definitely they can be any length. As you know, I've had a 6-inch cord and other ones like this. It becomes an issue when you're trying to breastfeed. I personally am not so pushy on a lot of things, and funny, I am noticing amongst some of my students that there's a little bit more. Some of you are much more fast moving, are faster and pushing forward towards something more than I do. Hang on, I want to get rid of something. Reacting. There's a faster reaction. So when the baby comes out, I actually do not feel like I do not force feed at the time of birth. I actually think I think it's a little manic that we grab a baby and we shove them on a tit. They actually need to breathe first.
I agree with you.
And I've seen it a lot. And in the case that this baby that you're describing, this baby's struggling to breathe. If you have a baby that's grunting and is struggling to breathe, do not put it on the breast. It cannot breastfeed and respirate at the same time. First, let them respirate and get their breathing established. And then wait, guys, wait. There's no rush for this. Wait till it makes sense. Usually, like I say, the usual first experience or expression from the mother is shock. Both mother and baby are in shock. The mother doesn't feel like a breastfeeding how at this point in time, and a baby doesn't know it wants that breast yet. It just knows something horrible just happened to him. So I like them to get used to the situation. I wait for the mother to indicate when she's ready to breastfeed. And sometimes part of the problem with these things are that people start talking to the mother and they think they have to put the baby on the breast as soon as they come out. I don't want any kind of idealism placed onto a mother's head or a baby's expectation. When a baby's born, I don't want them on a breast. And I don't want a woman thinking what she has to do. I want them to land safely on earth. Both of them. I want the mother to come back down. Bounce a few times till she lands with a dustbin. She'll pick up the baby when she's ready. But you sure do not, if a baby is not established clean breathing, do not shove a nipple down his mouth. He cannot focus on latching on just yet. Some babies won't latch on the first day at all. Not all of my kids did. Some of them took 2 or 3 days. They might get on and fall off, get on, fall off. You know that stupid routine they do. So maybe I've had too many kids than any of you, but they all do something different. So, and the whole, like I was interested in that last neonatal, at Sabitha's house, there was a lot of pressure to move quickly. There was a lot of pressure to, oh, maybe the baby's cold. Maybe the baby's this. Maybe the baby's that. Just settle down. We should wash this. Settle down. Calm down. I actually haven't got the baby in the water yet. I'm not ready to give her a scrub down. So for newborn babies, every second is something new and mind-blowing for them. There's some mind-blowing going on right now. So I want to take my time with them and move slowly. I think it's made me move slower as a human being. Being at births just slows down the clock, as we all notice, doesn't it? You're in a whole new world of reality and time. And we are watching, there's other things that we base a clock on rather than just the second hand, if that makes sense. I'm now looking at making a clock react to the time of birth, react to the time of a placenta. I'm not getting the placenta to react to the clock. The clock, tell me what time it is. Thank you. That's it. So there's so many other things to deal with. Go slow. Go slow. But that's my style. Everything takes longer with me. It can be a good thing or a bad thing. You figure out your style. So what was the other thing? What was the other thing about the placenta?
So shortcut is no issue at all. Yeah, and if the mother cannot respirate the baby, the father can obviously do that. Certainly.
Or the midwife can do it if you want to do it, but that's why God invented bulb syringes, so we don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I have had a mouthful of meconium. It doesn't taste good, people. Everybody's worried about the baby getting sick because of his meconium, and nobody cares about what happens to me.
Yeah, and the other question was about the calcium deposit. I just want to know.
Okay. Okay, so deposits, like a bank deposit. So, it actually indicates that the placenta is aging, it's getting older. So this is how we age a placenta, determine how old it is, and kind of determine how old the baby is in the womb. So we get, as in Sabita's placenta, there wasn't any, but it sounds to me that there were a few in Neelachalas. So as we were going through Sabita's baby, and I'm giving you points and information about how we analyze or guess her gestational age by the lines on her skin, how wrinkled she is, yada, yada. Similarly, we can age the placenta, and that's part of aging the baby as well, grading the baby as well. When the placenta is a natural living organism, and like all organisms, we all die. So the placenta will die. Like all old people, we have calcium deposits. It lets you, and how many calcium deposits we have lets you know how old we are, or that we're getting way close to death. Our time is up. So similarly, you're seeing the same thing as calcium deposits. Or you could pull them out and you'd be bald. But so it's the same thing. So you're looking at the placenta. Okay, it's getting older. It's a good placenta. It's still strong. It's just a few. You've still got some strong, red, juicy blood bits. But you're not seeing now if it was a sick placenta. So that's what we're looking for. Is it sick? There'd be a lot of these calcium deposits. Around the calcium deposits, it might be turning a bit gray. The placenta itself will start looking less red. What you saw at Savita's was a juicy placenta. I was making that point. It was lovely red and juicy. But as they get older, they just look old and tired. You know, the skin, right? My skin, your skin, it gets old and tired. So does a placenta. If it's a really sick placenta, it will fall apart in your hand. You can't pick it up without pieces falling. It just falls apart. So that's what it is. It's just the aging of the placenta, which is normal. So a bit of it we don't mind. A lot of it we don't like. We don't find it. If we find it early on, that can be, you might look at something. Let's say I get a baby who comes that comes on paper term. I have some question. Maybe there's something about his physical appearance. I'm trying to think of something that would make me question. Maybe his ears are a little low set or something, something that makes me wonder. Down syndrome kids, they have the giant, like Asian eyes pointing kind of downward. So then maybe I'll look back at the placenta. Have a good health. I'm doing a health check on the placenta. It gives me information as a health check on the baby. So if I have a baby that looks a little compromised or weak, yeah, and I see a compromised placenta or not a strong placenta, maybe I would ask this baby to be looked at by someone I trust. I wouldn't ask the baby to be checked out by someone I did not trust, because I know how hard they are, how violent they are on children. But let's say, remember, so we cut the cord, we look at the blood vessels, how many blood vessels. Maybe I look at a bad placenta and I want to look harder at the blood vessels, make sure there's 3. Again, if there's only 2 and I can't find, cutting here and there, I don't find it. Yeah, you want to take that, your baby should be examined. So like that, it just marks the health and the age of the placenta. So Indaleka, when are you planning to, did you go back yet today, or are you planning to go later today?
We didn't go. I think who said that at 2:30? Colina, I think, said 2:30. Yeah.
Okay.
I talk with Nilachula, they're fine. So like after lunch. Yeah.
Okay. And this is my laziness again. I am really bad, but I used to be right on top of it, but I would go the next day. I would go this day and do that neonatal test. But I did start to wait till the 3rd day.
Called delegating, not laziness. Delegating.
Oh, thank you. My God, I have to remember the right English. I need Indaleka to remind me. Okay. Yes, I'm delegating. This is great. But actually, this is beautiful. This is what I wanted. This is what we want, isn't it? That you guys are going out, you're doing the work. And I just tell you how great you were. Yeah, Radhika.
Apgar score, where is it? I thought there was a place where it just says Apgar, and that was just like one
Right.
box. You write the number there.
No, here. All right, look. It's on the bottom of the form, right there. Apgar. 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute. So this is the forms. So the forms look like this. You get this form.
Yeah,
You
saw that.
start filling it in. This is, the middle. The middle bit is all the details where the devil lives. This is the inside bit that the devil lives on. And then the last page, you have the mother's labor record and the baby's newborn record. So it is there. It is there.
No, I saw it. Some of it was a little confusing to me. The 1 minute, 2 minutes, what is that record exactly for the Apgar score? Okay, so we're taking, we're looking,
I think it was Susan Apgar that came up with this, but it stands for, you're using those letters AGPAR. And again, we keep doing this, don't I? I keep forgetting what it is. I just happen to know what I'm looking for, so I know how to give the number. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily remember what it stands for, but
Okay. Okay. So they're
Okay,
actually in order of the Apgar itself.
itself. So the first A is, let's say, appearance.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for the color and like this, how does the baby look? The next thing is, I think, was it pulse? No, it's not pulse. We came up with something else. R is
But
respiratory. Yeah.
if the baby, I mean, for example, the appearance, the baby did come out a little purple at first, but then in a minute it turned color to pink. What would you record that as? What number would
Okay,
you give?
well, that's why they take the first APGAR at 1 minute, not
Oh.
at birth. They know in fact, there's 3 APGARs, one at 1 minute, one at 5 minutes, not 2, 5 minutes, and the last one at 10 minutes, knowing full well babies take time to establish their breathing. That's why they make it so long.
Mhm.
So again, babies usually come out a variety of colors. Rarely do they come out pink.
Mhm.
Usually something's white, something's blue, something's purple, something's new.
Yep.
Everywhere. So after 1 minute, which again, that minute goes around at
Mhm.
its own time speed, then you look. And I have a way of taking numbers off rather than adding numbers together. So each letter has 0 scores from 0 to 2. So from what you tell me, sounds to me, well, definitely sounds like I would take at least 1, if not 2, off for respirations.
Yeah, I
I
did.
could hear from the baby was active, so I'll give 2 for activity. Sounds like I might want to take 1 off for, what are we looking for? The color thing. What are we, grimace? No, I'd give her 2 for grimace. Sounds like I'd give her a 7 to 8 for 1 minute, maybe an 8 at 2 minutes. Sounds like it might have been 8 at 9 minutes, at 10 minutes, sorry. But again, I don't. So, okay, so that's what I would record. And having found at 10 minutes that this baby is not a 10, and that this baby had some fluid issues, you did the right thing to hang around a little longer and ensure that everything went well. Normally that baby's a 10 by 10. And on the date of delivery, so yesterday was her due date. So based on that APGAR chart, that she was still 8 at 10 minutes, I would have hung around longer. And in fact, I would make that a thing too. Don't leave unless a baby's registering 10. Yeah, which means that she's breathing, her lungs are clear. You're looking at reflexes, are they doing their are they responding? Grimace is just this, which now that's a big that's one of this, and this is something that is a message from a baby that I am here, I'm alive, and I'm not talking to you. All right. That's why they want you to look for this. So you can have a blue baby, Makot Kaimana, my grandson, blue, purple to white, and he's not white, he's black. But he did the same thing, and I knew he was fine because his face was like this, and his fists were he was clenching his fists. But as he continued to hold his breath, his arms relaxed, he let go of his fist, and then he started to relax his face. And that's when I went to grab them. Just to work on them. But yeah, so stick around till they're 10. I think that was good. Yeah, well done. Okay, anything else?
Curious, what was the
Okay.
due date here? Due date here and the weight we'll check, right?
I did not know the weight. The due date was yesterday, the 4th or 5th. And yeah, what did you weigh? Did the baby get weighed, Rhoda? Okay, so maybe today or tomorrow.
Yeah, baby was to be weighed today. Also,
Okay.
can you wait 3 days before doing a baby exam? Won't a lot change? Skin wrinkles and all that, won't a lot change in 3 days?
Not really, not what we are looking for. So I'm not looking for, the skin won't change as such. So I mean, when you think, really what I'm looking for are things that can be done in a week or 2 weeks. The main important things you want to know is that a baby latches on and is sucking. Those, okay, and every time you go back, so you go back, and even if you didn't do a newborn exam, you will do a postnatal check. So you will be checking on whether or not the baby's moving her bowels, passing urine, breastfeeding. So if she's breastfeeding, she's going to be passing urine and stool. And we, of course, know that breastfeeding doesn't establish for a little while. So all these things. These things are on that, just the postpartum check, which is not the newborn exam. So we'll get this. So some of these I've mentioned before. On this little exam sheet, they do mention, it is written here, little blank spots to fill in, how long to measure the baby's length, the circumference of the head, and the circumference of the chest. I don't always do it, and it doesn't really matter at the time of birth. They want to get this at the time of birth, and for the next few days. Really what you want to do is make sure the baby is landed safely onto earth and that he's good to go. He's good to go. So what we do at the very beginning of the birth is you're already checking this baby over. And if you see anything completely wrong, like something bulging out of his back, or what else have I seen? Or you can't tell if it's a boy or a girl, or you've got some weird ass, you got a blue baby or a harlequin baby. If you see any of these things, you know you need to seek immediate care. Now, you guys haven't seen any of this, so those are the only things we urgently need to take care of. The rest can be done later. How do you weigh the sheet pads with blood to find out? So first you take the sheet pad, you know how much the pads weigh without blood. Then it's, what is it? It's equal. 1 liter weighs a pound, weighs a kilo. A liter of blood weighs a kilo, or yeah. So you do it that way. You weigh it, you add it up, a kilo, once you get to 1 kilo, that's a liter of blood, like that. So on next, you can come back and check all of these other things. At birth, you will already know about the molding, because you won't find it later. So did the baby have significant molding? Probably not, from the way you described it. If you go back the next day and the next day and she's still got molding, then we would look at it. Yes, I usually carry my own. I use those fish scales, the old ones, not the digital ones. I have used the digital ones. I just can't find it anymore, but I do have I ended up with 2, over the years, I've got 2 brass hanging hooks. And so they're good. I've used them forever. fontanelle, so on the head, the things that you're examining, you mentioned the skin. So yeah, what I'm looking for when I'm looking at the skin, dehydration is one thing, and that's simple enough to tell. I'm looking for markings on the body. There's, birthmarks, petechiae, or a rash. So you need to tell the difference from a birthmark, from petechiae, and from a rash. Petechiae and a rash look similar. I would have thought that. Yeah.
So like yesterday, mother found kind of birthmark. It's not clear, is it birthmark or not? Or like, it just was a little bit more pinkish than the skin. So what we're gonna do with the birthmark? I mean, like, what's it's indicating?
In Hawaii, they say that the birthmark, you check out the birthmark, and we have gods too. And so and gods take animal forms as well and plant forms as well. So whoever that birthmark resembles, the baby is then returned to that god, which in simple terms is called infanticide. So we kill those babies. So that's one method. Or you ignore it. So birthmark means nothing. It's just a mark. What does it signify? Well, what it signifies is probably as useful as what it signifies in my country. The only time it doesn't really matter. Babies are born with a lot of marks, right? And I even use phrases like skid marks or bruising. Babies, or gravel rash, right? It's when the baby has to come up and they're doing this, they're extending. And some kids are fully extending. So if they're posterior, they're fully extending under the mother's pelvic bone. Or if they're asynclitic and they're coming down at a funny angle, their sides of their face can rub against part of your bone, your pelvis, and they can get like a gravel rash down their face or wherever. It always goes away. See, Radha? It always goes away. Gravel rash and these things. Later, they are sometimes referred to as milk spots, these white pimples that show up on a baby's cheeks and nose. They call them milk spots. We just give names for things because the baby's drinking breast milk, so we call it milk spots. I call them atmospheric pressure changes from falling earthside. It's just a reaction their skin is having to the new environment that they've entered. It doesn't mean anything. So we do keep an eye on it. Usually these things don't mean anything. And we watch patiently for them to go away. I still have, it's still full. So I'm not worried about parents yeah?
Would the spots be characterized as a Mongolian spot as well? Or can you?
No. Mongolian spots are exclusively along the buttocks. They're only in the butt. You can have, what is it called? Grape juice stains, like Gorbachev, right? Gorbachev has that grapefruit stain down his head. So yeah, and those are a birthmark or a type of birthmark. They are innocuous, meaning they cause no harm. They are not dangerous. Same thing as petechiae, and the same thing with the regular birthmarks. These are, they are permanent, but they don't cause any harm or issue. Mongolian spots are not permanent. They are temporary. And babies whose parents are Mediterranean or tend to be darker skinned tend to have these Mongolian spots. And they are gone when the baby's about 6 months old or something. Yeah. And again, they don't mean anything. Sometimes it's okay. So this is another good thing about the neonatal check and why we do it. You're unwrapping a baby in front of the mother, rolling the baby all around, which the mother already has done. And she's going to point to you every kind of mark that she's seen or any kind of behavior that she has a question about. So that's really what a newborn exam is really good for. That you sit there and the mother looks and you talk to the mother and she goes, wait a minute, what about this? And I noticed that when the baby does this, he does that too. Or if I do this. So you get a chance to explain to the mother that what's normal and what isn't normal. And you can help her keep an, oh, well, that's interesting. Keep an eye out for it, or you don't need to worry about it. So really, that's probably a good advantage of having the newborn exam done smack in front of the mother. When I do it, it is extremely slow. I was showing you how I do that pelvic hip abduction. Now, one thing I should have pointed out that as I'm moving her, I can feel her. I get to a point and she resists me. She's pushing against me, the baby. So I stop. And I wait for her to relax. And then I keep going. But in the doctor's office, they have a routine they do, and they want it done in 3 minutes. I can take 45 minutes doing one of these stupid exams. And as soon as I go up, she resists me. She stiffens. I stop and I might wiggle her a bit and talk to her and play with her. She relaxes. I continue the exam. Whenever she stresses, I stop. If I'm going to do something I expect her not to be happy about, like there's another way to check the startle reflex. If I was to do that, I know she would react. I can do it and then immediately calm her down instead of flipping her over to do the next thing. And she has no idea what the hell I'm doing. And the mother is just stressing because her baby's screeching at this point. So, yeah. Anyway, just take your time when you're doing these things. By the time you've left, you already know. What's my answer? What are the answers to this, Greta? Thorax. Was it normal or were there retractions? What's the answer? You're muted.
I forgot what that was.
The rib cage and the baby's breathing.
It was normal. You're
Okay.
talking about the, yeah, it was normal. In fact, I have her file here. I'm looking at.
Oh, wow. Great. Okay. Did you happen to see dolls read? So this is what you start doing. Once you understand what this list is and what it means, right after a baby's born, you don't have to touch the baby. You just watch like an eagle, like a hawk, really like a hawk. Radha-kun, get your animal on. Get your inner animal on. Get your Nigerian goddess out. Yeah, man. You guys, I've watched something about one of the, I don't know if maybe he was Guyanese, but a hunter, a tracker. This is the deal, man. This is what natives do. They are in touch. So I want you to get that native tracker in you, get it out, find that animal in you, because you guys have it. Watch your baby like a hawk. And as you watch her, you'll answer these questions. Doll size? Broken vessels? Is there an infection? Where's the ear placement? All of these questions you can answer sitting on your hands and shutting your mouth, just sitting there quietly. And you can tick this paper off. Lungs. It took you a while to be able to tick that box, didn't it? Took a while. So you may write on your records, you might I would put a star by anything that I wanted to highlight. Lungs. I may comment that early signs of respiratory distress. In fact, I would have commented on this. Early signs of respiratory distress that was effectively managed at home. Yeah, that resolved itself. But that's something to take note of because people will challenge. But babies can have respiratory distress. Yeah, like this one. And this is what we did at home. You'll be able to sit there and tell me, Radha-kun, check, there's 4 things here. Moro reflex, Babinski, even if you don't know what it means, one is the foot, one is the grasp, and one is the startle reflex. Oh, grasp. And
What was that
sucking.
called? What was that called?
Moro is, okay, one's I simplified with grasping, but Moro's the foot one, where you run your finger up and if you touch at the, what's it here, this bit at the foot? The balls of the heel, something like this. If you put your pressure here, their toes will curl and grab you. And then once they're grabbed, and if you push here on their heel, they will open up. So that's a reflex. That's the Moro. Babinski is this, or it's the other way around actually, because I'm so used to using the lay words. So this is the startle. Grasp. That, right? You just put your finger in a baby's hand and they always do this. And sucking. Even if they don't latch on, can they suck? I'm not looking for latching. I'm looking, do they have the reflex to suck? Half of this page is answered. Sitting there, not moving. Next day, we can answer next day I will bother doing the hip abduction. You will see her clavicles, and Tapasya shared a story that makes an interesting point. I haven't had a broken clavicle, but I did have a clavicle palsy after a breach. So, Tapasya tells us a story of one baby whose clavicle, that's the shoulder blade here, that's this part, was broken on a baby. And sometimes this is a very soft bone, and it can happen in a very difficult, rough birth. Apparently, there was a lot of manhandling at this birth. So this baby's clavicle broke. How would I know this? How can I tell this? I would be able to tell this straight away, instantly. It took them more than 6 weeks to figure this out. But tell you what, if you've got a broken clavicle, you better pick it up on the first day. And if you didn't pick it up then, you sure as hell better be able to know what a broken clavicle looks like the next day, because you better resolve it then. So, how do I know? Because of that startle reflex, it'll go like this, and this hand won't go anywhere, or he will scream. He will scream. Lesion will be bad, exactly right. Well, mostly the first thing I'll see is that he won't do this. He may be willing to grab my hand, but he will not have a startle reflex, a proper startle reflex. It should be more or less even, unilateral. Whereas, so the baby that I had that had a nerve pinched, and it took a few days before it resolved itself. So he had temporary paralysis of his one arm. I think it was his left, can't remember, but one arm was paralyzed. So when he did this, instead of on the broken arm, the damaged arm, instead of going like this, he went like that. This one did the right thing, but this arm just went like that. For this baby with a broken clavicle, he would have been screaming bloody murder. And anytime they tried to put him to feed, he had trouble, especially on one side, which makes sense. So all of this should have been picked up, could have been picked up right after birth or definitely the day after. We mentioned the anus, so you already know you've got a complete anus because she's passing a lot of stool. However, you want to make sure it's coming out of the anus and not out of her vagina. So pay attention. Cord stump, you'll be able to see if there's a problem right then and there. And that's not urgent, you'll pick it up eventually. Things like the lines on the baby's palms and soles only relate to one of the trisomies, one of the congenital abnormalities. This does not affect the immediate survival of the baby, but long-term care. If the poo passes through the vagina, not likely at all, but it's the kind of things you look at, right? I don't look for it. I just see, because usually it's there and I don't think anything further. But maybe as I'm wiping or maybe as I'm looking after the baby, I notice something wrong, then I'll look further. As I mentioned before, I did have a baby that did not have any of his intestines. So that baby was not passing anything. And was projectile vomiting. And the other way that I could have checked, although I guessed, was to take a rectal temperature. And then you would see that the anus was closed off, was not open. How do I explain this? Yes, this condition is life-threatening. But I did not need to, it actually took us days to conclude what was going on with this baby. So indeed, it was the cause of death for this child, but it was not urgently life-threatening at the time of death. It became evident over time. Genitals, nothing life-threatening on genitalia right after birth. It's much later when you're teenagers that genitalia becomes dangerous to us all. All right, that's pretty. Oh, the palate, we talked about the cleft palate and otherwise. So again, you'll know whether whether the baby has a cleft lip right then at birth. Again, it's not life-threatening. The next day you can figure it out. Again, if we don't do a newborn exam today, we would already have complaints. Milk is pouring out of the baby's nose. Yeah, Radhakund, are you saying something? No, okay.
No, I was gonna ask with the palate, what are you really looking for? I know you mentioned that at Sabitas, but I forgot what you're looking for in there, the palettes. Are you looking to see if it's complete?
Yes.
If it's symmetrical?
If it's complete. So the clavicle is the roof of your mouth.
Yeah.
So with a cleft palate, there's no roof of the roof of the mouth is missing to various degrees, and it goes straight to the nose and sinuses. Really? Yeah. So it's fine cartilage that separates all these parts in our mouth, that's why we say ear, nose, and throat specialists. They all go together. Mm-hmm. It's all fine cartilage. So with a child that has a cleft lip, they often have a cleft palate. And what it is during the embryonic stage, the mouth and nasal passages were not properly formed. And therefore, so you can have openings are missing the roof of your mouth to various degrees. there is called, what is it? The Eustachian tube. There's a fine tube between the top of your mouth and your nose back here. Fine to allow air to go in and out. Otherwise we get blocked up, just like any plumbing. So in some cases, that Eustachian tube can be actually a lot bigger than it should be, to the point, or it can be completely missing altogether. For babies with cleft palates, they cannot breastfeed without aids. They can't suck, they can't properly suck the milk. So they need to put, there's something that's inserted that allows them to suck. And later, they do get surgical care. Yep. Okay. And the way I just put my finger in there and rub it back and forth. And you can see, I mean, it's, to be honest, this is something I always did with my babies. I always put this little finger in their mouths to shut them up. You know, when they're crying and stuff, I just always put this little finger in there, and it's really good because they always get my fingernails really clean. So I get to feed them, they get fed at the same time. So it's something I've always done. When you do it on a newborn baby, you will also get to see how strong their sucking is. You know how strong babies suck. They're quite strong. So I usually get all these babies, I check the pellets, and they suck like crazy. And I know that they're okay. I know that there's no problem with their ability to suck and latch on, right? And again, we always know it's just fear and concerns and people getting overworked. Okay. Anything else? Well, that was fun. That was exciting and interesting. That was a lovely share. And yeah.
Certainly was. You know, I feel like you get to birth and then you actually have questions.
Well, that's why we do it. We call it a debrief. We used to always do it after every birth, you know, sit down and debrief, because you always, you know, for now, you guys you'll always be learning amazing, something new, many new things over and over and over again. I see you taking notes, Rada. That's great. It's important to know. You'll sometime, even the notes for yourself, and later you go back and you review them at some point. You might want to scratch some of those things out. You might say, actually, I don't agree with this. You might say, I would do this instead of that, or make it 30 mils instead of 100 mil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just keep improving and fine tuning what works for you, what works for the women that you are dealing with. I'm certainly dealing with a whole different group of people every time I move. Yeah, they're very different.
Cool.
Very, very cool.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you too.
Again, wish me well on this journey and conference, and
We are your supporters. We're backing you.
yeah, I hope so. Bring your weapons, man. Bring your weapons.
Yeah, I hope.
Where's
Well-
Rada Kun when I need you, man? Where are you?
I'm here
Yeah,
Behind-
come.
behind you.
That's the trouble.
Hey, have the hospital paid for your tickets yet? Or they're still
No, they're not
stalling?
gonna. They're not gonna.
Okay.
No. No, they canceled out their meeting. He's just gonna send me a draft agreement. That's all right. I'll send him one too.
Well, good
Okay.
luck. I think I'm gonna join the team to go check on the baby just for fun.
Please do. That'd be great.
observe thing that you've learned
Do it.
today.
Do it.
Practice. Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. You're fantastic. This is the beginning of a great group. Thank you so much. Team, Birth Center.
Yeah.
Okay. Arrivo.